everybody. So thank you for joining me today. We're going to be using this sketch. I found it on Pinterest and I decided that I wanted to use um, the Kiwi Lane May kit. I'm showing you here the different templates that came in the kit and then some of the pattern paper. So I'm going to be using this as my base. It is a gray, kind of like a gray taupey color. And this is how I'm going to do the layout only because of the fact that my photos are kind of turned horizontal instead of vertical, but it's still going to work itself out. So this first page, which is the feathers, I thought I messed up at first because I cut the first piece at like 5, and I was like, oh, that was probably too short. I probably should have cut it right at 6, but it's gonna work out because my top section is just gonna make it a little bit smaller, but it's gonna mimic the other one, so it still works. So here I realize that the cutting it right at 6 is not going to work for the right side. So I'm going to actually wind up cutting another two, I think I did 2.5 inches, and I measured it at 7 so that the one on my right hand side is just a little bit longer at the top and bottom. And the pieces that I kind of miscut, I'm going to go ahead and use for my template. And I want the blue pattern paper to be the front of uh, my feather here. So I'm drawing it on the back side. So that way when I'm done cutting out on the very front, it's not going to have any of my pencil lines. Even though you still are going to want to um, use the distress ink on your edges because it really does help disguise some of the hand cutting. So I'm just going to fussy cut that out real quick. And I'm using my Tim Holtz snips. Sorry about that. I had to step away real quick. And I'm just cutting out the rest of the pieces. And then I'm going to cut a few more off camera because I didn't want to keep you guys watching me fussy cut. I just have one more. And I would say if you're going to draw on darker color paper like this, you might want to use a color pen or a white pen or something because it does get a little bit hard to see the pattern um, with just using a pencil line. So it might be a little different shape um, only because I was trying my best to follow the line that I drew. So I had 3 and I wanted to make another cluster that would be 4. And I'm just going to ink around the edges. And what I like, probably my favorite thing about double-sided papers is you use less paper and yet you can have so many different patterns. So I used 2 sheets of paper. I had the one side with the polka dots, the one with the feathers, and then on the one side I'm using the yellow that has sort of like a chevron pattern in it. And it's it's enough, you know what I mean? And I still have tons of the kit left, and I only used but so many papers. So I I I really enjoyed using this one, and I like the colors with the kind of the pinky purples and with the blues and yellows. It was a lot of fun. So once I did the edges on my feathers, I realized, you know what? Let me go ahead and do the edges on my strips too, my papers, because on a video I did a while back talking about distress ink and why you go around the edges. This paper is a prime example because you can see this dark white edge all the way around. And so by using the vintage photo, it tones down all the white edges and it just gives it a nice finished look when you see the completed project. So for my photos, I'm using the 3x4. I guess they would be they're almost like Project Life cards. And so I'm cutting my photos down to either what is it, 2 1/8 by three 3 7/8, excuse me, by 2 7/8. And if that's too difficult, just do like 2 3/4 by 3 3/4, and that will give you a nice border around your edge. And some of my photos, like if you were to get really like close up on it, it's not perfectly straight or even, but I just wanted a little bit of color around the photos to give it a nice edge, and I think it turned out pretty good. And the only thing that I might have done different would have been on the right hand side. Since I used pink under the one photo, I might have used like yellow under one of the photos over here. But for the most part, I really do enjoy how they turned out. And these photos are from a trip that I took, about 2 years ago in October, to a crop, and it's me and my mom, and then my friend who I craft with online a lot, Beatrice, who I will make sure to put a link here for her YouTube channel. I got to meet her at the, up in Jersey, and we went to this crop together. And then her son, who was at college not far from us, came, and we took pictures all together. We took a little selfie together. So I'm scrapping this particular day, and it was just a lot of fun. And I can't believe, I don't know if this has ever happened to you guys, but if you are able to go onto a crop, or go somewhere that you spend your time, you have a great time, and then you look back and you're like, I didn't take any photos. So that's what happened on this trip. We wound up having so much fun. There were key moments that we forgot to take photos. So these are the ones that I have. My one with my mom, it was a little blurry, but I scrapped it anyway because I just wanted to scrap the moment. And I just remember that was when we first got there, and we were all settled, and we decided to start crafting. So it's great for your memories, you know what I mean? And it keeps it fresh. Even though it's been 2 years, I can remember that weekend like it was just yesterday. So this was a lot of fun. So now I'm going to start laying everything down, and I'm using my ATG glue gun, excuse me, and the art glitter glue. And I'm laying down my pieces as far as the paper, straight to our 12 by 12 page. And one of the photos will be flat, and then the second photo is going to be lifted up with some fun foam. So I'm just putting this one together. I'm keeping my close clusters of the paper as close to the sketch as possible. And I'm starting to, and hopefully you'll see it up here, in the upper corner. I'm not sure if I'm going to have it on the right side or the left side. I'll figure out which side is best. But I will try and have a picture of the actual sketch in the video, so that way you can see it as we go. And I'm just kind of laying stuff out, and I realize that my three feathers over here on the right, I like where I have them, but I just think they're sitting too far out. So I decided, you know what, let me just glue these together, and then I'm going to start lifting up the fun foam and stuff these down a little bit. So that way they're coming out, but they're not sticking all the way out and hitting the other photos. So that's why I had to lift up that, and then I just put down some more glue and laid it down. And the art glitter glue does give me just a little bit of time, that if I needed to move something around or lift it up, I potentially could do that without ruining, the entire project. And then we're going to go ahead and finish this cluster over here. And I don't use the Project Life cards a whole lot. I don't do that type of scrapbooking. I do it like once a year, and it's usually in December. Um, but what I have found is by watching people like Missy Whidden and a lot of the ladies who do Hip Kit Club, um, they use a lot of those cards for layers or for the background of their photos and stuff like that. So I that's what I decided to do because a lot of the colors match. That's the one thing about the Kiwi kits is everything coordinates really well together. So in this particular kit we had these stickers which are kind of like a mixture of puffy and clear stickers. They're really neat. But I decided to use some of the art glitter glue as well because I wanted to make sure that they stay down. So like the hearts, um, I have an arrow, a couple of arrows that we're using, and then I almost used the entire sheet on this because they're really fun stickers. Um, and I wanted to use the feathers, of course, because I'm using feathers. So I'm just going to keep adding the layers. And for the title, I decided to do um, hashtag together because I like the pop of the black, which you'll see here in a little bit as I finish. I'm just laying out a few more things. Here it is. And I was trying to decide. I was like, should I do remember? I'm like, no, let me do together. And I was going to put together down here. And I just thought, you know what? It's too small. Like it needs to be able to breathe. So I decided to put the hashtag together up in the top right, and I'm just pressing it down. And then I was like, you know what? I need to add some more black so that way I can tie this in, with the sentiment. And so I decided to add some of the hearts and stars, and then I think that's it on the yeah, on the black foam. And then I decided, okay, so let me cut up a few pieces of paper and I'm going to put them over top of my photos. So then that way I can do my splatters. And I will say this particular paper, the first one that I'm using is the Spritz Granny Gray, which I got in a recent haul. And I tried to pull the spray bottle all the way out, but it just wasn't working. So I decided to just stick my paintbrush inside and then tap it with my Picket tool to get the splatters. And then I grabbed some High Swap Color Shine in the gold. And then for the last bit, I'm taking the white picket fence distress spray, and I wanted to dry the areas where, especially the granny gray was, because I didn't want the gray and the white to mix. So I tried to dry as much as I can, and then I'm kind of hitting it a little bit harder because I wanted some of those like directional sprays, and then of course just the regular old splatters. And what was interesting is on some of the pattern paper, like the white was very bright, and then on the background, it kind of fades out, and then the gold is more prominent. I don't know, it was really nice, and it just gave it a nice finish accent. And then off camera, which I don't have a photo of it here, I did date it, and then right underneath the photo with my friend and her son, I just put in a little bit of hand journaling. I didn't put that on camera because I hate my handwriting and I didn't want to have to take a photo of it. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and share button. And of course, at the very end, I will have links to previous Sunday layout videos. And I hope you have a great day.